Welcome to the Channel Surfers. I'm John McCabe, co-host, and I'm joined as always by my very good friend and co-host Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
John, I'm doing fantastic, as I always like to say, because I am doing fantastic. Spring is here, spring is sprung, but it's raining a lot. But no, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Excited about our episode today to talk about, um, a little bit about the marketing, co-marketing thing, because it ties a lot to what we just recently talked about with, which is RSA, which is a
Yeah,
pinnacle event, right?
yeah.
So
I was going to say, I think we need to talk about what's the best bang for your buck when you're a channel program or a sales organization trying to get brand awareness and prospects to come to your site or to talk to you. And I think, in my opinion, spending money on those LinkedIn ads or Google ads or any kind of social media, it doesn't really get the results. Lead gen companies, nah. I think the best bang for your buck is a co-marketing plan with partners. And we're going to talk about that today because I think it's a really important topic. If you're trying to figure out your go to market as a channel leader, you're probably focusing on co-selling, but there's a step in between that, and could be an important step to help with that co-selling, and that's co-marketing. And I know we harken back to several episodes we did. I think number 26 with Lisa Haishi.
yep,
She was a chief
yep.
marketing officer, and her take on partner marketing. And then the episode Will Taylor about, I don't know, like 8-10 episodes ago, that I think opened our eyes significantly to what we're going to talk about today.
That was I'll beat the hell out of this word today. That was kind of a watershed moment for me as it
Hmm.
relates to how you go to market with partnerships.
Yeah.
I always say this. I've done a lot of things over my life and in my career that have helped me be successful, and I didn't realize some of the joint solution briefs and some of the event commingling and all those things that was co-marketing, and we weren't even co-selling yet. It was all the co-marketing, but yeah, and I just I see it as incredible, and that show with Will Taylor was very impactful for both of us because it made me take a step back and kind of reevaluate the things we were doing because
Hmm.
a co-marketing strategy is just that, and it needs to be a strategy and it needs to be thought out and designed so that you can execute with your partners, so that you can drive the most meaningful outcomes, right? And
Exactly.
and we were just talking about RSA on the previous episode, and there was a lot of things you needed to do before. If you already had partnerships, there were things that should have been in place and things should have been happening about co-marketing before you even went to RSA. And then you're doing co-marketing while you're at RSA, and now you've got another 60 days after RSA of continued co-marketing to breathe and push that message of here's the joint solution, here's the derived outcomes, here's what we're trying to help clients solve client problems, so to speak.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I think this is again another a timely show, and I love the fact that we're kind of pulling from, and we're going to leverage RSA for those who are familiar with it, in the cyber industry space. But
Hmm.
there are other shows. I mean, I've worked in other spaces, around document management, ARMA, events where regulated management of documents and things. They all have those similar events. Same thing applies. It really
Sure.
does. So
So, look, you're not going to get an argument from me. I think this is a great lead in or follow up from our RSA event show that posted last week. Uh, but let's talk about what are the best events that are perfect co-marketing anchor for any program. What are you looking for in an event?
well, just like real estate, I think location, location, location. I think taking a half step back, looking at the broader aspect of what is your ICP, what's your target market, what is your target client, what are the verticals? What I call my 3 by 3 by 3 kind of. You got to have your three verticals, your three personas, and then your three use cases. But even
Yeah,
bringing that up one more level is what is the market you're going after? So I think
yeah,
um, we talked, I don't want to get too down the road with events, but obviously RSA is a national event, but there are all kinds of events, like I mentioned on the regulated document side. You've got the ARMA event, right? You've got other industry type events for financial services and healthcare and hospitality. So I think the knowing what your target market is, or your target clients, and the problem that you solve in that market, I think finding the cities that will give you the best representation. Um, I think when we had Ross on, he talked about the football cities, right?
Yeah.
That's always a good guide, whether you're a football fan or not. But leveraging events in the cities where they have a football team. I know a lot of people like to do their events at stadiums, but I think
Yeah.
that's it's very meaningful, because look, you also have to have a draw for the event. But without going down that road, this gets into, in my opinion, how are you tying together the joint value proposition that solves a real problem for a client, that's driving a business outcome, and then focusing on that co-marketing. Because what the the takeaway I had from Will, and as I'm processing this right now, right, but my takeaway from that conversation with Will was the co-marketing allows you to have a structured plan
Hmm.
that allows you to test the messaging before you even get to a co-sell step, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
technically you are kind of co-selling a little bit, but the co-marketing is allowing you to do that testing. It's allowing you to build out the practice, build out the assets and the information and the white papers and all those things, and how it's actually, so that you can be aligned with your audience that you're going after, right? So making sure that you're aligned. You know, Making sure that my big thing is the JSB, the joint solution brief. Building out that joint solution content, I think, is critical. But I think it's even taken on a whole new phase, John, without going too far down the path. But
Hmm.
a joint solution brief is a singular thing, so to speak, but it should be a living, breathing document. But then you've got to tie into, the LinkedIn, the social media post, the blog post. You got to do videos today, right? You got to put your little top hat on and your cane and do your little dance, right? And hey, um,
Hmm.
you're still going to do your email sequencing, which uh, I think I think you still have to do that, but it gets lost. I can't even tell you the amount of emails. I said this joke before. I feel like I'm on Tinder. I'm just swiping the emails on my
Hmm.
phone. But but yeah, and then basically getting all that stuff, getting the content, getting the message, and then as you start to launch that co-marketing, and I mean, for me, I'll just kind of take a step back again. I'm probably going to fall off a cliff, keep taking all these steps back, but looking at RSA as an example. So at the minimum, you're talking, at the minimum 30 days before you've started it, if it was a new relationship. For most organizations, hopefully they have a partnership, or they have somebody they're working with, so that you've been kind of putting some things together so that you're actually testing that information
Hmm.
when you
Yeah.
get to RSA. Does that make sense?
Right. It does. It does.
So
And I know, like, just kind of thinking off the top of my head, like, co-marketing involves, motivation and financial, award for partners. And, you know, take a minute to, talk about our sponsor, Extreme. If you are managing a global channel, that slow payouts kill partner motivation. Extreme can fix that. Working with the marketing team, they provide the ultimate platform for channel partner payments, allowing you to instantly send global incentives. MDF, I mean, God, MDF, that's a marketing thing. I never was, never got MDF, but any commissions or spiffs and rebates, your partners can choose how they get paid: bank transfer, digital wallets, prepaid cards, in over 140 currencies. But when you're working with Extreme, you can stop the manual spreadsheets and start scaling your channel. Go to extreme.com, xtrm.com, and you can see for yourself. So I think that ties in a lot to what we're going to talk about today, because incentives are a really big part of any marketing program. You want to draw the attention to your product. You got to get some eyeballs, and you got to tempt them a little bit, right?
absolutely. Well, look, I think, and again, not to make it into an overblown, commercial or anything. I mean, it is the value of what they do, because look, incentives are directly tied to marketing outcomes. So if you're doing the right things and you're doing the right marketing, And that ties into the co-marketing and marketing in general, because you're marketing and then you're doing the co-marketing, which is how you're working with a partner. That's where having something
Mhm.
like an XTRM or having an incentive program, people are doing it today. We could probably do a whole show on MDF, right? And where the MDF, and in addition to incentives, and where is that today? You know, it becomes kind of a black hole. But without going too far down that, it is about how do you manage and track those things, because at the end of the day, you
Excuse
want to
me.
stay focused on the execution
Yeah.
and driving the outcomes for the business. So I think that's where it kind of plays in, right? So anyway,
Mhm.
no,
I
I
would
think
say if
that's
you're a
great.
small company, MDF isn't a play for you. That's for like the
Absolutely.
big boy. Again, when you're looking at spending thousands of dollars on a LinkedIn ad or a Google ad where you might not get the results, what
Hmm.
you're doing is co-marketing. You're spending money to directly promote your product, your brand within that partner organization. And then you go and you co-sell with these partner reps because you're laying the groundwork for them to see who you are, what you do, get an idea of, the brand, getting that mind share, and it's all within the right boundaries of the partnership because you're in this co-marketing program. I think what Will highlighted, and is something, excuse me, I had seen prior to talking to Will, co-marketing is just a better ROI than going out and doing advertising. You know?
100%. 100%. Well, it's the litmus test, right? It's
Yeah.
the ability to test the messaging as you go out, because like I said, you have two companies, A and B. You have your solution and your values, and then they have their solutions and their values and benefits and the differentiator and that whole mix. But it's that flux capacitor conversation I used to have. It's that joint value that they can drive together. It's the sum of the parts is greater than what they are
Right.
singularly. So
Right.
that's where I think but that co-marketing piece is how you go prove case, right? Because to have all that is one thing, but making sure that that message resonates with the audience, with with the businesses, so that they go, oh, okay, yeah, like, or hey, you know what, we're using that, this helps that. I will take a look at that. I mean, and you see it all the time, complementary solutions. I mean, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
I find, and I'll just throw another plug out there to our buddies at Intro, right? Because they're growing like gangbusters. But what Intro does from a PRM perspective, right? I was just looking at something this morning, how that helps you with your Salesforce and with your HubSpot is just, it's beyond amazing what it can do. And the fact that they now have native integration to Claude in my opinion, is a game changer. But
Mm.
it's that complementary piece, right? They're not trying to take away from what these other vendors do. They're specifically solving a problem in the market, but they also complement these other solutions with which companies may have. But they can actually help you do things faster and better, because these other solutions, they may not go down that path, right? Maybe they're
Mhm.
looking at it, they're going to do development, whatever. I always tell people, look, if you can find a way to co-market and go out, and by the way, there's the co-marketing is also with, from a VAR reseller perspective or an
Mhm.
MSSP perspective, where they don't even have a product, but now you've got to go out there and say, hey, here's our solution. These guys actually can help you sell, manage, and drive our solution. So you don't just buy this, right? It's like the Uber, right? So here's the car, but we're going to drive it, right? We're going to drive it for you, kind of thing. So I think
Yeah.
that's also another avenue, so to speak.
Yeah. And if you're in an organization that has partner marketing, I mean, you're lucky, and they could help wade through all of the, the components or the programs that you can get involved in. If you don't have partner marketing, I mean, not the end of the world. Marketing should be helpful and responsible for that, because when it comes down to it, marketing wants those, they want the eyeballs on the product, right? They want the eyeballs on the site, the website. They want people coming in and asking for, demos and meetings. And what we're doing is we're doing that, but within a partner organization where you have the ability to, like I said earlier, just hone in on the rep world, the rep, staff, and get your messaging out. So, either partner marketing they, or regular marketing, like a no partner marketing, you definitely should work very closely with that organization. I always try to latch on to marketing whenever I get to a company, or I'm supporting a client, because we need lead gen for the partner reps. We need something to take to them to say, hey, come come sell with us, because then you're going to
Yeah.
flip it around. They're going to flip around. They're going to bring you into deals when they see how easy it is to work with you, right? So I think, not having a partner marketing organization isn't the end of the world. Just get friendly with your marketing people.
Absolutely. And by the way, I mean, some of these, like you said, if you have partner marketing, you're very lucky. Um, with the advent of AI and the technologies, I mean, more and more companies are streamlining and cutting because they want the marketing people to do more kind of thing. So just,
Mm,
but the co-marketing piece for me, right? So coming back to one of the things we touched on, which was, we were talking about RSA, for example. So there should have been all this pre-gaming things that happened, not the pre-gaming that you're tailgating, but the
yeah.
pre-event planning, right? Probably a better phrase there. But the pre-event planning, so that you're ready and you're already telegraphing, you're already pushing out some of that information from a co-marketing at the event, right? When you're at the event, like, how are you co-marketing your message? How are you doing things? Are you doing social amplification through your co-marketing? Who's managing and tracking those things? What's the protocol?
Yep.
And again, this is already done, so you can't do this at RSA because that event's
Mm,
gone. But there are other events like at the end, whether it's a 1, 2, 3 day event, just have a quick debrief. Like, hey man, how do we think this? And
yep.
I know people are like, so busy. Did you get to execute on what you wanted to execute at the event? What worked, what didn't? And people are like, oh, we have time for that. Now, I'm telling you, do it. Do it on the last day. Do it at the last couple hours. Go, before you go jump on a train or get in your car, just go, hey, just go. I remember doing an event down in City Line Avenue, and we did our post event. It was a 1 day thing, but we did our post event in the parking lot, and it was kind of funny because I wanted to keep talking, like, hey, so how do you think this went? Hey, we talked to these people, blah blah blah, and I could tell the two people were like, all right, well, we'll follow up. I'm like, I have you now.
Yeah. But
So
it's not just these big events. Partners do host events with clients, and that's why you want to be in a co-marketing program, because you can get first crack at sponsoring them and being a part of that and promoting it. You could also do webinars. I think webinars are effective. Got to get the right audience to go to it, but there's all
absolutely.
sorts of things you can do with a partner that help to accelerate brand awareness and get mind share that you need. We've talked about mindshare before on the show. Having partner mindshare is critical. I've done some
Absolutely.
things in my career to capture mindshare. I at one point I was working. CDW as our big partner at this one company, and we had like a special deal reg code with them. Like, you put this code in on our website and you get to a deal reg page. It was pre PRM situation, but I went out and bought mouse pads with our logo, CDW's logo, and the deal reg code on the mouse pad. So there was never any question if they could,
Huh.
come and get the deal reg. It was right there in front of them, everything they needed. And people were like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And I would go in and I would just walk around and throw them on everybody's desk, and it was effective. We did have more opportunity that came our way without questions.
Yeah.
They kind of knew what they had to do. I kind of like led them to the instructions on how to get there, and that's the code you use, and so it worked effectively.
No, absolutely. Well, look, I mean, the word co means, right, that you're doing it together with somebody. So
Yeah.
if you're going to truly co-market, right, you don't need a contract or anything like that, but you do want to get a commitment from the
Mm.
from the company you're working with. And sometimes, I've done this, and I'm not blowing my own horn, although I could. No, seriously. But sometimes you got to do the heavy lift yourself, right? If
Hmm.
you don't have a marketing team, or maybe you have a marketing team, but they're like, nobody else sees the value, but yet when you talk through it, you're like, okay, this is something. So even back before all this great technology, I mean, I would put something together to visualize what it would look like. because what you're not having a contract, but you want to get that commitment. So you develop that outline of what the shared, deliverables looks like from both sides, right? So that it's a win-win-win. It's a win for you, it's a win for them, and it's a win for a client. Um, and then just the hard part is to try to get a cadence, like to try to, even if it's bi-weekly, just having the conversations. And by the way, also going to other events. Um,
Partner
without,
happy hours are a great one. You get to know the people there.
but
Doesn't really cost a lot, you know.
and they got to know that you're committed, right? You got to be showing up. And if they see you at enough, I've heard it. They're like, hey man, like you come pretty religiously to these things. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's about getting to know people and building that rapport. And through that, you have, quote unquote, the honest conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not one sided. It's like, hey, how do you guys actually handle this? Um, I try to take almost like again, a little secret of mine, but like I try to take like a 3-tiered approach, right? Because you've got, obviously everybody wants to go in and do this co-marketing and we're going to do these joint solutions, and they start talking at this level up here. Okay, that's great. And you're getting the buy-in, you're getting all the executive buy-in, and hey, yeah, this is where it's going to be part of our roadmap. I come down 2 more levels. I come down, there's a mid level and then there's the field level, right? The field is your sales and your other maybe partner people, but mostly sales. What are they seeing? Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Just articulating and verbalizing the message. Does it make sense? Is this what we're trying to do? Because it'll feed back to the co-marketing plan, but does it make sense? And then I've got, the mid-tier people who, whether it's an alliance director, the national channel guy, like whoever, who has a different purview on what's going on, to also be my second litmus test, so that when I would go back to the leadership, it's like, well, this is what we know, this is what we're seeing. You guys
Mm-hmm.
do XYZ, and here's where we can help. And first we're going to and that's where the co-marketing begins, right? Hey, we're going to build out this thing. Um, I'll throw this out there. I mean, to me, and I want to kind of hear your thoughts, but I think the top 3 things that kind of kill co-marketing is when it's one-sided, and it's visibly one-sided, and you're not getting the buy-in, and you're not getting the actual reciprocation. Number 2 would be not really defining who your target is. We talked a moment ago, ICP, your target, your market, your verticals.
Mm-hmm.
Having a defined audience that you want to go after.
Yeah.
And then really, having a follow-up plan. Like, how are you executing? How are you following up? What does that look like? I mean, what else kind of jumps out at you?
No, I mean, those are good points. I think, if you're serious about this, you're going to do it in coordination with the partner and their marketing team. And some of them cost money, I'm not going to lie. And they're significant dollars. But they're partners that might not have a formalized program. I think you need to sit down and not lay out the expectations. You spend so much money, we spend so much money, and we have regular cadences to organize and make sure things go well. I hate having like a partner that doesn't really put the effort in. You're coordinating a webinar, and they leave it all up to you, and then you don't have any say or any kind of input from them on the topic. And you go to do the webinar, and they're like, we should have done on this. Well, like where was the communication, right? I think it's important, if you're dealing with smaller partners who want to co-market, you got to coordinate and you got to leave it up to marketing. I'm not a marketing person. I don't ever pretend to be. So I leave it up
I
to
do.
marketing.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But then, if you're in a formalized program, great.
Mm.
Make sure you're doing the things that are like, the ROI is well spent. You're getting the best bang for your buck.
Absolutely.
Some partners have these, 3-day events where you're with CISOs for 3 days. That's a great spend. And marketing loves those kind of events, right? Because
Yep.
it's very focused decision makers.
And you have a
Um,
captured audience too.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. But don't discount some of the events that the partners want sponsorship for. Just do the right ones. Do the ones that are like not a boondoggle. We've talked about this umpteen times on our show. Do the ones that are like going to show value and get you the best,
Yeah.
prospecting opportunity post event. And again, follow up, follow up, and put it into your 30, 60, 120-day plan, is, and keep that motion going with your partner reps. If there's a
Oh,
client you spoke to at an event, make sure you know who the rep is on the partner side, get them involved, get them a part of this whole marketing campaign that you're working with on the partner side, so they can, invite, and not just the client you spoke with, but other clients, right,
right,
to see
right.
that.
Well, you nailed it. So it's momentum, right? The whole point of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
marketing and doing this, it is about having momentum, because it's so hard to get it going. But once you have momentum, that once the rock is rolling, you got to keep pushing it, because it's not that it's not so much that it's easier, but it's definitely easier than trying to start it up again when it stops. But I just want to throw this out there, and I wrote it down. You nailed something else. You nailed when you were going through your explanation, getting your bang for your buck. So I would say the other kill switch, or the other kill
Hmm.
item, is having no success metrics. So in other
Yeah,
words,
yeah.
you want to make sure you're getting your bang for your bucks, because you're making an investment. There's an investment. You want to have your return on investment. So what does success look like? So having some mutually agreed upon success metrics. What does that look like? Obviously, we all want to get deals, right? But you want to also be able to point to it like, well, the success for this phase was to get this amount of outreach, to get these amount of meetings, or these demos, or,
Hmm.
or,
Hmm.
or whatever it is, right? You come up
Yeah,
with that metric for yourself. But I think your bang for the buck is
yeah.
the number four. That's a killer.
I think you're right. I mean, because you're spending dollars that could go somewhere else in the company, and you're telling the company, trust me, I want this money to do this event or do this marketing campaign, and it better work. Um, you got to
Absolutely.
get the, you can't look, you can't just waste time on an event. You got to go where there are decision makers, and there are people that will meet with you post event to talk about your product, right? I know there's one partner we work with. Part of the agreement, when you sponsor, there's a list of attendees. They don't want you going out and just setting up meetings by yourself. They want you to work with the partner rep that is assigned to that account. And they do put the partner rep's name next to each account, and set up a call and have them involved from the beginning, right? And that's not, that's your sales rep. You got to train them and get them to do the things like that help grow the partnership and help them grow their pipeline. Respect that that rules of engagement with the partner. But again, this is something you have to outline during your co-marketing,
Planning.
planning sessions, and
Absolutely.
understand the rules, right?
Absolutely. No, that's a great point, man. Look, it is, you know, in real estate, what do they say? Location, location, location. I think to have, whether it's marketing or even, specifically this co-marketing effort, because you're trying to unify two different organizations, two different solutions, two different
Mhm.
companies, there's a couple different nuances to it, but it's plan, and execute, right? So, if I was to kind of, and again, not over summarize it, but I always talk about the pre planning, which is your pre-gaming pre-planning, which is at
Mhm.
least 45-30 days before an event. Make sure
Yeah.
you've got your ducks in a row. Then the event, what you're doing during the event, how it works. And again, if it's a happy hour, you don't have to go ballistic. I mean, the happy hour is more of a nuanced event to make sure you're driving the communications. We're talking about, whether it's a cybersecurity event, whether it's a restricted, information event, a financial services
Mhm.
event, whatever line of business that you're in, and you're going to a 2 to 3 day event. So be ready to actually track those things that are happening. And then
Yeah.
that 60-day to 90-day afterwards, what happened? Who did we talk to? How are we funneling this stuff back in? Because I'm also a big believer, again, going back to Will Taylor, the co-marketing is going to help you refine what you think is going to work to something that should work or will work, because it's not always what you think it is. There's going to be a tweak or a nuance to it as you start testing your co-marketing message,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
What about even like if you're an alliance partner, maybe splitting the cost of an event and having representatives from both companies at the table. I've done that before,
oh,
and it
absolutely.
doesn't. It does work. It does work.
Well,
Um,
to your point, right? You better make sure that you've got a really clean alignment of here's what you do, here's what we, and I'm not trying to oversimplify for people, and AI and Notebook LM have helped tremendously, or even there's a little solution out there,
Mhm.
called PartnerBot that has this capability about being better together,
Yep.
which is specifically around how do you take two different organizations and their approaches and show how they can be better together, and also call out some of the gaps that may need to be looked at to help make it be even better, better together, right? Anyway, but you know what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons that then we were kicking that around, and with PartnerBot is, hey, I think it originally started off as like, hey, we should do a battle card, but it ended up turning into, here's a way to do things and be better between the two organizations, and then being able to refine that. So it lays a foundation to help establish a plan, which that document that it produced, like that output, I've used as a foundation for helping, a couple other clients kind of meld their stuff together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and again, you take something like that, you give it to a marketing person, and it's kind of like it's there. Now, can you go do
They
some of that
love better
stuff?
together stories. Marketing
Yeah,
loves that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for me, it's like, and just remembering, look, it's a co-marketing is so that means, it's not one partner is going to just run with it. It's about doing it together, making sure that it's a win-win-win,
Mhm.
and building out that plan, having a framework of how you want to work together and how you're going to execute, so everybody's on the same page. And then I wrote it, I'm going to come back to this, man. I mean, I thought what you said, the bang for the buck, the success metrics. You've got to be measuring success weekly, monthly, as you're going through this, because and I've shared this with you, the velocity at which this business and things are moving right now is
Yeah.
is unlike anything I've seen in my career. So you need to know, and you don't have to do hard pivots, but you've got to, and there's times when you don't want to pivot. You just got to stay true to what you're trying to do because there's so much noise. But there are times when you're going to have to tweak a little bit to make sure you're doing the right thing, and
Yeah.
it's aligning with the right people. So
Yeah. No, I agree. All right. Any final thoughts? Because we're up against it. What are your final thoughts on co-marketing? I'll give you mine quickly. Um, Probably the most important thing you could do from a partnership standpoint before you go jumping into co-sell. Co-selling is tough. If you don't have the brand awareness or the mind share, you're just going to be falling on deaf ears. Co-marketing helps you pave that road to,
yeah,
better conversations and better opportunity building.
no, I love that, man. Um, I would just look. There's not too much to add to that. I mean, what I would do is just, again, plan, have a minimum of a 90-day to 120-day plan for your co-marketing effort.
Mhm.
Make sure that you're obviously that you're communicating with the appropriate people in the teams to do the things that you want to do. That you're getting the alignment, you're building the appropriate materials.
Yeah.
That you're when you do your launch, that you're doing your A/B testing on it, and having at least a biweekly kind of touch point strategy to make sure that you're staying on track, you're staying on path, so that you're driving to the success metrics that you've established. And by the way, that may kind of change and augment a little bit, but I think that's key. And then the last is the 4 kills. Like, just make sure that you are aligning yourself, because there are going to be challenges,
Mhm.
right? Where you've got to figure out how do you circumvent, navigate around the challenges that will derail the co-marketing efforts. And it's
Yeah.
because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So that would be my final takeaway.
Love it. I think that's a good wrap for this topic, and hopefully our audience was has questions and wants to learn more. And if they want to learn more, reach out to us on our website www.channelsurfers.com. There is a contact us form. You can ask to be a guest, or you could send us a question, and we'll get back to you.
I'll tell you what,
Um,
if you're a marketing person and you've watched this and you are like, I'm gonna call either BS or, hey, I like what you're saying, but you should also do XYZ. To John's point,
Reach
reach
out.
out to us, man.
Let's talk.
Again, there's no significant criteria. We'd love to have you on and get your perspective, because I just think that there are so many people out there with inputs and messaging and perspectives that could be valuable. So
Yeah, I agree. All right. So you can reach us also LinkedIn. We have every Tuesday we post our latest episode, and Jeff does a great job with the videos. You can reach us there, or reach out to us through email, john@channelsurfers.com or jeff@channelsurfers.com. You can find us on all the podcasting services and on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel as well. So there's many ways to get in touch with us or view us or listen to us. You have no shortage of ways to hear the Channel Surfers. So with
Awesome.
that, Jeff, thanks again for doing this and another good show. And to our audience, we'll be back again next week with another topic for you to listen to.
Awesome. Take care, everybody.
Cheers.